Catherine Howard was one of Henry VIII's wives who met a tragic end, while Jane Seymour was the only one of his wives to die in childbirth. Catherine is considered to be the most ill-fated, as she was only 21 years old when she was executed. But what were the dark secrets behind her ill-fated marriage? Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to explore the dark secrets behind Catherine Howard's ill-fated marriage. Now, prior to her marriage to Henry, Catherine had been sent away to live with her aunt Joyce Culpeper, after her father died when she was just 14. And for a while, everything seemed to be going well for her. In 1539, Henry VIII took an interest in her and she became one of his mistresses. She soon moved into the royal court and she even got a noble title. She was appointed lady-in-waiting to Queen Catherine Parr. However, as time went by, she became discontented with her situation. As one of the king's mistresses, she was only allowed to be with him when he wanted her and she could even have a child with him. On top of this, Henry had married Anne of Cleves and Catherine was left feeling unwanted. She felt that her relationship with Henry wasn't stable and that if he married another woman, she could lose her position at court. So she decided to take drastic measures. She first started seeing a man named Thomas Culpeper, who was a member of the royal court and was married to one of Catherine's ladies-in-waiting. Soon, she was also involved with another courtier named Francis Derham. It seems that Catherine was reckless with her choices, as both men were older than her and already taken. Things changed when Anne of Cleves left the picture. Henry was looking for a new mistress and he set his eyes on Catherine. They started having an affair, but it quickly escalated just 4 months after his marriage to Anne was annulled. Henry married Catherine in January of 1540. This made Catherine the youngest queen consort of England at the age of 19. Their marriage was celebrated with great fanfare and many people thought that Catherine would be happy now that she was Henry's wife. However, this wasn't the case. You see, from the time that she was 14, Catherine had been passed around from one man to another. Her father had forced her into sexual relationships with older men, including members of the clergy. When she was just 16, she became pregnant, but the child was stillborn. Later, when she was staying with her aunt, she had a relationship with her cousin, which resulted in a pregnancy. But once again, the child was stillborn by the time she turned 18. She had suffered 2 miscarriages and she was no longer able to bear children. When Catherine married Henry, she hoped that she could finally have a stable relationship and bear him a healthy child, but this wasn't meant to be. The young queen was infertile and she was once again facing the reality that she would never be able to fulfill her duty to produce an heir. But there was more. Catherine had kept the details of her past hidden from Henry, and when he found out about her relationship with Derham and Culpeper, he was furious. To make matters worse, Catherine tried to cover up her affair by denying it and lying to Henry. This made the king even angrier, because he felt that she had betrayed him. In July of 1541, Henry summoned Catherine to talk about rumors regarding her behavior at court, but she refused to listen to what he had to say. Instead, she told him that she was innocent and that those spreading the rumors were jealous of her. That king was so angry that he ordered her to be imprisoned in the Tower of London. Catherine knew that she had made a terrible mistake. She had thought that she could get away with covering up her affair, but she had been caught. She confessed everything to Henry, begging him for forgiveness. But the damage had already been done. Henry didn't want to divorce her because he needed a legitimate child to secure the Tudor dynasty. He had recently had a son with one of his mistresses, but the boy had been born out of wedlock, and he couldn't legitimize him without damaging the prestige of the crown. So Henry decided to keep Catherine as his wife, but he treated her horribly. He gave her no money and he chained her to a bed at night to prevent her from harming herself or their unborn child. Catherine hated the restrictions placed on her, and she started plotting with other members of the court to escape the country and start a new life elsewhere. However, one of the women she confided in, Elizabeth Blount, revealed everything to Henry. Once again, Catherine found herself in hot water, but this time, she was desperate. She begged for forgiveness and swore that she would never do anything to jeopardize her marriage again. But the king didn't believe her. He ordered her to be arrested and taken to the Tower of London. Catherine was so frightened that she attempted to flee, but she was caught and brought back to the Tower. There, she was forced to watch as her close friend, Elizabeth, gave birth to Henry's illegitimate son. Catherine felt that her life was over. She had lost everything, her freedom, her dignity, and her chance to have a family. As the months went by, Catherine's health deteriorated and she eventually died in childbirth. However, the baby didn't survive either, and Catherine was buried in the chapel at Windsor Castle. Many people believe that Catherine was innocent and that she was just a victim of circumstance. However, others believe that she had brought her fate upon herself by sleeping with so many men. What do you think? Was Catherine a victim or was she responsible for her own downfall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. After Catherine's death, Henry married one of his ladies-in-waiting, Catherine Parr. For the 3rd time, he had married a woman named Catherine of Aragon before Catherine Howard. And as you can imagine, the 3rd Catherine, Catherine Parr, had some pretty big shoes to fill. Unlike the first two, Catherine Parr was much older than Henry. She was 33 when she married the king, while Henry was 53 at the time. Despite the age gap, they had a happy marriage. Catherine Parr outlived Henry and played an important role in the lives of his children. After his death, she married a man named Thomas Seymour. On the other hand, Henry's first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was the mother of his daughter, Mary I. Although Mary was born a legitimate child, she was declared illegitimate after her parents' marriage was annulled. This meant that she couldn't become queen until her sister, Princess Elizabeth, also born from a previous marriage, renounced her claim to the throne. But Mary was determined to be the first queen regnant of England, and when she ascended to the throne in 1553, she wasted no time in establishing her authority. One of her first acts was to restore Catholicism as the official religion of England. This angered many of her subjects who had converted to Protestantism during the reign of her father, Henry VIII. Mary responded by launching a series of persecutions against the Protestants, which became known as the Marian persecutions. During this time, more than 270 Protestants were burned at the stake. Henry VIII's second wife, Anne of Cleves, had a much different fate. After he broke off his marriage to her, she was given the title of the king's sister and was given a large sum of money. She spent her days managing her household and her nights in bed with her dog. As for Henry's other mistresses, few of them survived his reign. One of them, Elizabeth Blount, gave birth to his son, but the boy died at the age of 2. Another mistress, Mary Stanley, was executed for treason after she plotted to kill the king. Only 2 of Henry's mistresses survived him. One of them, Catherine Willoughby, became the Duchess of Norfolk after marrying a wealthy nobleman. The other, Margaret Pole, Countess of Salisbury, was executed for treason after Mary came to power. As you can see, life at court could be dangerous for both men and women. The stakes were high and there was always someone ready to take your place. Henry VIII's wives and mistresses were no exception. Some of them survived his wrath, but others did not. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications to be the first to know when I post a new video. 16th century England, Henry VIII is desperate to find a wife so that he can finally have the son and heir that he so desperately needs. Enter Catherine Howard, a young lady who has everything that the king could want in a bride. However, on their wedding night, tragedy strikes. What happens next shocks the entire kingdom. It's me. And today we are discussing Catherine Howard, a Tudor monarch who lost her groom on their wedding night. This is the story of Catherine Howard and the mysterious death of her new husband. The year before, 1539, Henry had been married to Anne of Cleves, but soon after their marriage, the king had decided that he wanted a divorce, not because he didn't like Anne, but because he simply wasn't attracted to her. He had fallen for one of her ladies-in-waiting, the young and beautiful Catherine Howard. In fact, when Henry saw Catherine, he was immediately smitten. He praised her beauty and called her the most beautiful creature in the world. The two began having an affair while Henry was still married to Anne, and after their secret tryst, Catherine became pregnant. Now, Henry's advisors weren't exactly thrilled with this situation. They begged him to wait until his divorce from Anne went through before beginning a relationship with Catherine. But the king was head over heels in love, and couldn't wait. As the pregnancy progressed, the rumors of Catherine's infidelity reached Anne's ears. She knew she wasn't the favored wife anymore. So to get back at Henry, she made up her own rumors about him. She told people that the king was impotent, that during their intimate moments together, he would only last a few seconds. She also accused him of being unable to properly consummate the marriage. Of course, these rumors were false, but they spread like wildfire across the kingdom. The longer the rumors circulated, the angrier Henry became. It got to the point that Anne was too afraid to even leave her rooms, knowing that the king would come for her and make her pay for what she said about him. Eventually, the accusations got back to Henry and it was done. The once beloved Anne was now out of the picture. Henry and Catherine's relationship was nothing short of passionate. Their romance was the talk of the town. And once Catherine gave birth to a healthy baby girl, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that Henry had made the right choice. Soon, the couple began planning their wedding. The whole kingdom rejoiced. Finally, the king would take a new bride. But some believed that the hasty wedding was all for show. They thought that Henry did it to cover up the affair he was having with Catherine. After all, how could a respectable woman be carrying the king's child? It didn't matter what people thought though, because Henry loved Catherine and couldn't imagine spending the rest of his life without her. For Catherine, things weren't so simple. She had left behind a comfortable life at her family estate to be with the king. In her old life, she was just another noblewoman trying to find a good marriage so that she could advance her social standing. She had little political power and even less wealth. But with Henry, she knew that her life would change. She would become queen and would have access to all the luxuries that came along with it. Still, she hesitated. She had heard the rumors of Henry's past and how he had treated his former wives. Catherine had also seen firsthand how fast his affection could turn into disgust. Even though she loved the king, she knew that she had to be careful if she wanted to stay in his good graces. On July 28, 1540, Henry and Catherine were wed. The ceremony took place at the palace in Whitehall, London. During the reception, the king was in high spirits. Maybe it was because he had just married the woman of his dreams, or maybe it was because he had successfully gotten rid of his ex-wife, Anne. Whatever the reason, he partied hard that night and drank more than usual. Soon he was completely drunk and stumbled upon his new bride, who was in her chambers resting for their wedding night. We don't know exactly what happened next, but we do know that the king didn't sleep in his bed that night. Instead, he spent the entire evening with Catherine, completely ignoring the fact that he was supposed to be resting. As the sun rose, the king finally stumbled back to his room, exhausted and hungover. Little did he know that this would be the last time he would ever see Catherine alive. When the king woke up, he was shocked to realize that Catherine wasn't by his side. He assumed that she had gone to get ready for the day and figure out what her new life as queen would look like. But hours passed and she still hadn't come back. At first, the king tried to brush it off, thinking that she was just busy with her ladies-in-waiting. But when the whole day went by without seeing her, he began to panic. Why wasn't she in her chambers? Was she avoiding him? Hadn't she slept with him the night before? Henry was desperate for answers, so he sent his advisor Stephen Gardiner to check on her. Stephen entered Catherine's chambers and found her lying in her bed, fully clothed. At first he thought that she was sleeping, but then he realized that she wasn't breathing. He ran to the king and told him that his wife was dead. Of course, Henry was shocked. How could this be? The night before, they had been sharing intimate moments together. Catherine had been his bride, and now she was lying dead in her bed. What could have killed her? Stephen explained that Catherine had most likely died from a sickness, and since doctors weren't around at the time, there was nothing they could do about it. While Stephen was talking to the king, Catherine's ladies-in-waiting were working frantically to hide the evidence. They knew that their queen's body wouldn't be pretty to look at, and that it would cause even more panic if word got out that the new queen had died a horrible death. The ladies took care of Catherine's body and prepared it for burial. They didn't tell anyone about the true state of her remains. Instead, they claimed that she had died from sickness and that her body would be put on display so that everyone could pay their respects. While Catherine's ladies-in-waiting were able to keep her body hidden away, they couldn't keep the smell away. Soon, the whole palace reeked of a rotting corpse. Everyone was horrified, but nobody knew what to do. The king was in a panic, trying to figure out who was responsible for letting such a horrible stench permeate throughout his palace. That's when Stephen Gardiner told him the truth. The queen was dead, and her body was stinking up the place. Henry rushed to Catherine's chambers to see her for one last time. But when he opened the door, he was met with a sight that he would never forget. There in front of him was the woman he had fallen in love with, dead and rotting. The king was heartbroken. He had lost his bride on their wedding night, and he didn't even get to spend one single day with her. He immediately ordered that she be buried in the chapel at Whitehall Palace, and he kept the news of her death a secret. He didn't want anyone else to know that his bride had died such a horrible death. For the next few weeks, Henry threw himself into his work, trying to distract himself from the pain of losing Catherine. He worked on a new law that would allow him to marry again. Because even though Catherine was dead, he still wanted to be with a young, beautiful woman. And so, just months after burying his first wife, Henry married Catherine Parr. Everyone was shocked, but no one dared speak out against the king. After all, he had just lost his bride on their wedding night, and no one wanted to be the one to tell him no. What do you think really happened to Catherine? Was it really just a case of bad luck, or was there foul play involved? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have UNT already so that you can join our growing history family. And I'll see you next time.